Zack's Cosmic Classroom. Chapter 1. The Cosmic Birthday Gift. Zack's eyes flew open as sunlight streamed through his star-patterned curtains. A grin spread across his freckled face as realization dawned. "It's my birthday," he whispered, barely containing his excitement. He leapt out of bed, nearly tripping over his model solar system in his rush downstairs. His thick-rimmed glasses sat slightly askew as he bounded into the kitchen, where his parents waited with warm smiles. "Happy birthday, Space Cadet," his mum said, ruffling his messy brown hair. "Thanks, Mum." Zack beamed, eyes darting around. "Are there any presents?" His dad chuckled. "Patience, Zack, but there's something special waiting in the living room." Zack zoomed in, skidding to a stop before a package wrapped in shimmering planet-decorated paper. It was shoebox-sized, but surprisingly light. "Wow, so cool," he whispered, carefully unwrapping the gift. Inside lay a sleek, futuristic helmet. Silvery white with a dark visor, it bore strange, glowing patterns on its surface. "What is it?" Zack asked, turning it over. His parents exchanged puzzled glances. "We're not sure, honey," his mum said. "It arrived this morning with your name, but no sender address." Zack's eyes widened. A mysterious space helmet on his birthday, better than he could have imagined. "Can I try it on?" he asked eagerly. His parents nodded, and Zack carefully placed the helmet over his head. It fit perfectly, as if made just for him. As the visor clicked into place, excitement surged through him. Suddenly, the helmet came alive. Lights danced across the visor, accompanied by a soft, growing hum. His parents' concerned faces blurred as dazzling colors swirled around him. "Zack," his mum called, her voice distant and echoey. Before he could respond, the world vanished in a brilliant flash. When it faded, Zack found himself on a barren, rocky landscape under a star-studded black sky. The ground beneath his feet was scorching hot and stretched to the horizon, pockmarked with craters. Zack's heart raced as he realized where he must be. "No way," he breathed, eyes wide with wonder. "I'm on Mercury." Chapter 2. Mercury's Molten Mystery. In a blink, Zack found himself on a desolate, rocky landscape. The scorching heat hit him like a wall, making him gasp. "Wow, it's like standing in front of an open oven," he exclaimed, eyes wide. "Welcome to Mercury, young explorer," a voice called out. Zack turned to see a shimmering metallic figure approaching. "I'm Merc, your guide to the hottest spot in the solar system." Zack's mouth fell open. You're an alien," he sputtered excitedly. Merc chuckled, the sound like tinkling bells. "Indeed I am. Now let's see what you know about Mercury." "Well," Zack began, pushing up his glasses, "I know it's the closest planet to the sun." "Excellent start," Merc beamed. "But there's more. Did you know that Mercury isn't always the hottest planet?" Zack's brow furrowed. "It isn't, but how?" "We have extreme temperature swings," Merc explained, gesturing around. "The side facing the sun can reach 800 degrees Fahrenheit, while the dark side plummets to minus 290 degrees. "That's crazy," Zack exclaimed. "How do you handle it?" Merc's body shimmered. "We've adapted. But let's talk about these craters." Zack noticed the pockmarked surface stretching far and wide. "There are so many." "Mercury's surface is covered in craters, like Earth's moon," Merc nodded. "They're caused by asteroid and comet impacts over billions of years." Zack peered into a nearby crater. "This is so cool." Merc floated over. "Ready for a challenge? Your task is to find the largest crater on Mercury." Zack's eyes lit up. "You're on." For the next hour, Zack explored Mercury's surface, hopping from crater to crater. Merc floated alongside, offering facts about the planet's history and composition. "Mercury's core makes up about 85% of its radius," Merc explained as Zack examined a deep crater. "That's more than any other planet in the solar system." "So it's like a giant metal ball with a thin, rocky crust?" Zack asked, picturing it. "Precisely," Merc beamed. "You're a quick learner." As they crested a hill, Zack's jaw dropped. An enormous impact basin stretched before him, its edge out of sight. "Wow," he breathed. "This has to be it." Merc nodded. "Well done, Zack. You found the Caloris Basin, Mercury's largest crater. It's about 960 miles across, wider than the distance from New York to Chicago." Zack's mind reeled. That's incredible. What could make a crater so big? "A massive asteroid impact billions of years ago," Merc explained. It was so powerful it caused weird terrain on the opposite side of the planet. Merc produced a small, shiny object. Congratulations, Zack. You've earned your Mercury badge. As Zack pinned it to his spacesuit, he felt a tingling sensation. What's happening? He asked, excited and nervous. Merc smiled. Your next adventure awaits. Remember what you've learned here. Every planet has unique wonders to explore. With a final wave to Merc, Zack felt himself whisked away. Mercury's cratered landscape fading from view. His mind buzzed with new knowledge as he wondered about his next cosmic destination. So cool, he whispered, hurtling through space, ready for his next planetary challenge. Chapter 3. Venus, the Cloudy Conundrum. In a dazzling flash, Zack found himself engulfed by thick yellowish clouds. The sudden change from Mercury's heat to this hazy world left him dizzy. Wow, Zack exclaimed, eyes wide. Where am I? Welcome to Venus, young explorer, a bubbly voice called. From the swirling mists emerged Venera, a shimmering, gaseous alien sparkling with golden and amber hues. You're made of clouds, Zack blurted. Venera laughed, releasing colourful vapour puffs. And you're solid. How fascinating. Guiding Zack through the Venusian atmosphere, Venera explained, Venus is often called Earth's twin, but it's more like an evil twin. Why's that? Zack asked. Venus is almost Earth's size, but our thick atmosphere traps heat, creating a runaway greenhouse effect. It's a planet-sized oven. How hot does it get? Hot enough to melt lead. The surface is about 900 degrees Fahrenheit. That's crazy, Zack gasped. How do you survive? Venera flipped gracefully. We cloud dwellers live high up where it's cooler. Below, the pressure would crush your helmet like a soda can. As they cloud surfed, Venera taught Zack about sulfuric acid rain and Venus's backward rotation. Ready for a challenge? Venera asked, eyes glowing. Zack nodded. Bring it on. Find a hidden volcanic peak in these clouds. Be careful, the winds are tricky. Zack moved cautiously, using Venera's lessons to guide him. He noticed wind patterns, following them deeper into the thickening atmosphere. Squinting through the haze, Zack spotted a dark shape. I think I see something, Venera beamed. Keep going. Zack's heart raced as he neared the massive volcanic peak piercing the clouds. I found it, he shouted. Venera clapped, creating shockwaves. Excellent, Zack. You've earned your Venus badge. As the badge appeared on his helmet, Zack felt proud. He'd conquered Venus's treacherous atmosphere. Venus is so different from Earth, Zack mused. It makes me appreciate how special our planet is. Venera nodded. Every planet has unique beauty, Zack. Remember that on your journey. Waving goodbye, Zack activated his helmet for the next leap. As Venus faded in golden mist, he wondered what marvels awaited on Mars. Chapter 4. Mars, the Red Planet Detective. With a whoosh, Zack's feet touched down on a new surface. He blinked, adjusting to the reddish light. A landscape of rust-coloured rocks and dust stretched as far as he could see. The sky above was a pale pink, nothing like Earth's blue. Wow, Zack whispered in awe. So cool. Welcome to Mars, young explorer, a mechanical voice chirped behind him. Zack spun around to face a robot-like creature. Its rusty red exterior blended perfectly with the Martian landscape, and its large, camera-like eyes focused on Zack with friendly interest. I'm Rover, the alien introduced itself. Ready to uncover the Red Planet's secrets? Zack nodded eagerly. You bet. What's first? Rover extended an arm, pointing to the horizon. See those mountains? That's Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in our solar system. Zack's eyes widened. It's huge. Indeed, Rover agreed. Mars holds many more secrets. Did you know our atmosphere is very thin compared to Earth's? Zack took a deep breath, noticing the difference. Is that why it's so cold here? Exactly. Rover's eyes lit up. Now let's talk about our polar ice caps. As they walked, Rover explained Mars's seasons and how the ice caps grew and shrank. Zack listened intently, his mind buzzing with new information. But the most exciting thing about Mars, Rover said, lowering its voice, is the possibility that it once had liquid water on its surface. Zack's eyes grew wide. Really? Like oceans and rivers? Rover nodded. And where there's water, there might have been life, Zack exclaimed. Now you're thinking like a true Martian scientist. Rover chuckled. Your challenge is to find evidence of ancient water on the Martian surface. Zack's brow furrowed. But how? All I see is rocks and dust. Look closer, Rover encouraged. Water leaves clues even after it's long gone. Excited, Zack began exploring. He climbed small hills, peered into craters, and examined rock formations. Soon something caught his eye, a winding depression in the ground like a dried-up riverbed. Rover, he called out. I think I found something. Rover rolled over, its eyes zooming in. Excellent observation. This channel was likely carved by flowing water billions of years ago. Encouraged, Zack continued his search. He spotted unusual layered rocks, mineral deposits, smooth pebbles, and even imprints resembling fossilized microbes. Exhausted but exhilarated, Zack presented his findings to Rover. Impressive work, young detective, Rover praised. You've uncovered multiple lines of evidence suggesting Mars once had liquid water. You've earned your Mars badge. As the badge materialized on Zack's spacesuit, he beamed with pride. Thanks, Rover, this was amazing. Before you go, Rover said, what do you think about future human missions to Mars? Zack's eyes lit up. It would be incredible. Maybe one day we'll set up a base here and learn even more about Mars's past and its future. Rover nodded approvingly. With curious minds like yours, Zack, I'm sure humans will continue to explore Mars's mysteries. As Zack prepared to leave, he took one last look at the red landscape. He couldn't wait to share what he'd learned with his classmates. With a smile and a wave to Rover, Zack activated his helmet, ready for the next leg of his cosmic classroom adventure. In a flash of light, the red planet disappeared, and Zack found himself hurtling through space once more, wondering what giant world awaited him next. Chapter 5. Jupiter, the Giant's Moons. With a flash of light, Zack found himself floating in a sea of swirling clouds. His eyes widened at the enormous bands of color stretching as far as he could see. Oranges, reds, and creamy whites danced around him in mesmerizing patterns. Wow, so cool, Zack whispered, his catchphrase escaping before he could stop it. Welcome to Jupiter, young explorer, a deep, jovial voice boomed, seemingly from everywhere at once. Zack spun around, searching for the source. Suddenly, a massive being materialized before him. It looked like a sentient storm cloud with swirling patterns mimicking Jupiter's bands. I'm Jove, the being said, its voice as big as the planet itself. And you must be Zack, ready to learn about the biggest planet in our solar system. Zack nodded enthusiastically, pushing up his glasses. Absolutely. This place is gigantic. Jove chuckled, the sound rumbling like distant thunder. You're right about that. Jupiter is so big we could fit over 1,300 Earths inside it. Zack's jaw dropped. No way, that's incredible. Indeed it is, Jove agreed. Now let me show you something special. With a wave of what Zack assumed was Jove's arm, the clouds parted, revealing a massive, swirling red spot. Is that? Zack began, his eyes growing even wider. The Great Red Spot, Jove confirmed. It's a storm so big it could swallow Earth whole, and it's been raging for hundreds of years. Zack watched in awe as the enormous storm churned beneath them. It's like a giant hurricane that never stops. Exactly, Jove beamed. Jupiter's full of powerful storms, but that's not all we're famous for. Look over there. Jove gestured to the space around Jupiter, and Zack gasped as he noticed several spheres of different sizes orbiting the giant planet. Are those moons? Zack asked, his voice filled with wonder. Indeed they are, Jove replied proudly. Jupiter has 79 known moons, but 4 of them are extra special. We call them the Galilean moons, named after the Earth scientist who first discovered them. Zack's eyes lit up with recognition. Galileo. We learned about him in school. Very good. Jove's cloudy form seemed to brighten. Now, Zack, I have a challenge for you. Can you spot all 4 Galilean moons? Zack's brow furrowed in concentration. I'll sure try. Excellent, Jove rumbled. Remember, they're called Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. Each one is unique, with its own special features. Zack scanned the space around Jupiter carefully. He spotted a yellowish moon with what looked like volcanoes on its surface. Is that Io? He asked excitedly. Well done, Jove praised. Io is the most volcanically active body in our solar system. Encouraged, Zack continued his search. He noticed a smaller, bright white moon. That must be Europa. I remember reading that it might have an ocean under its icy surface. Correct again, Jove's voice boomed with approval. Many scientists think Europa could possibly harbor life in that subsurface ocean. Zack's eyes darted around, looking for the remaining 2 moons. He spotted a large, greyish moon with what appeared to be craters and grooves on its surface. Is that big one Ganymede? Excellent observation, Zack, Jove exclaimed. Ganymede is the largest moon in our solar system, even bigger than the planet Mercury. Zack felt a surge of pride at his success so far. He searched intently for the final moon, finally noticing a dark, heavily cratered sphere. And that must be Callisto. Bravo, Zack! Jove's cloudy form swirled with excitement. You've successfully identified all 4 Galilean moons. You've earned your Jupiter badge. A glowing badge appeared in front of Zack, showing Jupiter with its 4 largest moons. As Zack reached out to take it, he felt a sense of awe wash over him. Jupiter is like its own little solar system, he mused, looking at the giant planet and its moons. Jove nodded approvingly. That's a great way to think about it, Zack. Jupiter and its moons show us just how diverse and complex our cosmic neighborhood can be. As Zack prepared for his next planetary jump, he took one last look at the swirling storms of Jupiter and its orbiting moons. He couldn't wait to share this incredible experience with his classmates back on Earth. Thanks, Jove, Zack called out as he felt the familiar tingle of teleportation. Jupiter rocks. Gaseous planet rocks. Jove's thunderous laughter was the last thing Zack heard as he disappeared in a flash of light, his mind buzzing with newfound knowledge about the gas giant and its fascinating moons. Chapter 6. Saturn's Ring Rider. Zack felt a familiar tingle as the space helmet whisked him away from Jupiter. In a blink, he found himself facing a breathtaking sight. Saturn loomed before him, its magnificent rings stretching out like a cosmic hula hoop. Wow, Zack whispered, eyes wide with wonder. Welcome to Saturn, young explorer, a cheerful voice rang out. Zack turned to see a peculiar alien approaching. It was perfectly circular, its body shimmering with the same icy particles as Saturn's rings. I'm Ringy, the alien said, spinning in place. Ready for a whirl around the rings? Zack nodded eagerly, and Ringy led him closer to the planet. As they approached, Zack gasped at Saturn's sheer size. It's huge, he exclaimed. Ringy chuckled. It sure is, but here's a fun fact. Saturn is the least dense planet in our solar system. If we had a bathtub big enough, it would float. Zack giggled at the image of Saturn bobbing in a giant bathtub. What are the rings made of? He asked, peering at the shimmering bands. Excellent question, Ringy beamed. The rings are mostly ice particles with some rocky bits mixed in. They range from tiny grains to chunks as big as houses. Zack's mind raced. How did they get there? Will they always be there? Ringy spun excitedly. We think they formed from debris of moons, comets, or asteroids torn apart by Saturn's gravity. And no, they won't last forever. In about 100 million years, they might disappear. 100 million years? Zack's eyes widened. That's a long time. In cosmic terms, it's just a blink of an eye, Ringy winked. Now, ready for your Saturn challenge? Zack nodded, feeling excited and nervous. Your task is to navigate through the rings without touching any particles, Ringy explained. It's trickier than it looks. Zack gulped. The rings had looked solid from afar, but up close he saw gaps between the particles. It was like a giant, icy obstacle course. Don't worry, Ringy reassured him. Your space helmet will protect you. Just remember, slow and steady wins the race. Taking a deep breath, Zack began maneuvering through the rings. He ducked under a large ice chunk, then swerved to avoid a cluster of pebble-sized rocks. It was like dancing in space, and Zack found himself enjoying the challenge. You're doing great, Ringy cheered, gliding alongside him. As Zack neared the end of the ring system, he faced his biggest obstacle, a dense patch of icy particles with barely any gaps. He paused, studying the section carefully. Remember what you've learned, Ringy encouraged. Zack thought back to Ringy's words about the ring's composition. An idea struck him. He moved to the very edge of the ring, where the particles were less dense. Slowly and carefully he made his way through, finally emerging on the other side. Fantastic job, Ringy exclaimed, spinning rapidly. You've earned your Saturn badge. A glowing badge appeared on Zack's helmet, displaying Saturn and its iconic rings. As they floated back to admire the planet, Zack felt awe wash over him. The rings shimmered like a cosmic rainbow, casting shadows on the planet's surface. It's beautiful, Zack murmured. Ringy nodded. Saturn reminds us that there's beauty in the bits and pieces. Sometimes the most stunning things in the universe are made up of countless small parts working together. Zack pondered this as he prepared for his next jump. He had navigated Saturn's rings, but what challenges awaited him on the next planet? With excitement and curiosity, he waved goodbye to Ringy and activated his helmet for the next leg of his cosmic classroom adventure. Chapter 7. Uranus, the Tilted World. A flash of blue-green light transported Zack to a new world. His eyes widened at the sight before him, a planet like a giant marble swirling with pale blue and green bands. "Wow, so cool," Zack whispered, his catchphrase escaping his lips. Suddenly, a wobbly figure appeared, struggling to stay upright. The alien's cylindrical body was perpetually tilted at an odd angle. "Welcome to Uranus, young explorer," the alien said, teetering. "I'm Tilt, and things are a little off-kilter around here." Zack giggled. "Nice to meet you, Tilt. Why are you so tilted?" Tilt's eyes twinkled. "I'm glad you asked. You see, Zack, I'm tilted just like my home planet. Uranus spins on its side." Tilt spun slowly, rotating sideways instead of vertically like Earth. Zack watched in amazement as Tilt mimicked Uranus's unique movement. "That's incredible," Zack exclaimed. "But why does Uranus spin like that?" Tilt steadied himself. "We're on a different axis here, you might say. Long ago, something big hit Uranus. We think it was another planet-sized object. The impact was so strong that it knocked our planet over." "What does that mean for life on Uranus?" Zack asked, his mind racing. "It means things are pretty wild here," Tilt explained, wobbling excitedly. "Our seasons are extreme, and they last for decades." Zack's eyes widened. "Decades? That's crazy." Tilt nodded, almost tipping over. "That's right. And speaking of wild, I have a challenge for you, Zack. Can you figure out how our tilt affects our seasons?" Zack's brow furrowed as he thought about Earth's seasons and how they were caused by the planet's tilt and orbit around the sun. But Uranus was so different. "Well," Zack began slowly, "on Earth we have seasons because different parts of the planet face the sun throughout the year. But if Uranus is spinning sideways..." He paused, picturing the planet's unusual rotation. Suddenly it clicked. "I've got it," Zack exclaimed. "For part of Uranus's orbit, one pole would face the sun all the time, while the other is in complete darkness. Then, as Uranus continues its orbit, the poles would switch." Tilt clapped his hands, creating a sound like ice cracking. "Excellent deduction, Zack. You're absolutely right. Our North Pole faces the sun for 42 Earth years of constant daylight. Then, as we move along our orbit, we have a brief period of day-night cycles before the South Pole takes its turn with 42 years of sunlight." "So, one season on Uranus lasts longer than I've been alive?" Zack marveled. "Precisely," Tilt beamed. "Can you imagine a summer that lasts for 42 years? Zack shook his head, amazed. "That's unbelievable. Earth would be so different if it was tilted like Uranus." "Indeed it would," Tilt agreed. "Our unique tilt makes Uranus a one-of-a-kind world in our solar system. And speaking of one-of-a-kind, you've earned this." Tilt presented Zack with a shimmering badge shaped like Uranus, complete with its unusual tilt. As Zack pinned the badge to his spacesuit, he marveled at the diversity of the planets he'd visited. Each one was special, but Uranus's tilt made it truly unique. "Thanks, Tilt," Zack grinned. "I'll never look at seasons the same way again." Tilt gave a wobbly bow. "It's been my pleasure, young explorer. Remember, sometimes in life it's okay to be a little tilted. It's what makes you unique." With those words echoing in his mind, Zack felt the familiar tingle of his space helmet activating. As the blue-green world of Uranus faded away, he wondered what new wonders awaited him on the next planet of his cosmic adventure. Chapter 8. Neptune's Wild Winds. With a flash of blue light, Zack materialized on a swirling azure surface. Strong gusts immediately buffeted him, nearly knocking him off his feet. "Whoa!" he exclaimed, regaining his balance. "This must be Neptune." A blur of motion caught his eye, and suddenly a being that looked like a living whirlwind appeared before him. "Welcome to Neptune, Zack," the alien spoke rapidly, its words blending together. "I'm Stormy, your guide to the windiest world in the solar system." Zack blinked, trying to process the quick introduction. Nice to meet you, Stormy. Could you maybe speak a little slower?" Stormy's form shifted, slowing its swirling motion. "Oh, right. Sorry about that." We Neptunians are used to everything moving at high speed. Let me try again. The alien took a deep breath. Welcome to Neptune, Zack. I'm Stormy, and I'll be your guide to the wildest weather you've ever seen. Zack grinned, his excitement growing. This is so cool. I've never felt wind like this before. You ain't seen nothing yet, kiddo, Stormy exclaimed, its form briefly shifting into a miniature storm cloud. Neptune's winds can reach up to 1,200 miles per hour. That's faster than the speed of sound on Earth. Wow! Zack's eyes widened behind his helmet. But how does a planet so far from the sun have such strong winds? Stormy beamed, pleased by the question. Excellent observation, Zack. Neptune might be far from the sun, but it has a hot core and layers of different gases. When these gases move and mix, they create massive storms and super-fast winds. As if on cue, a dark spot appeared in the atmosphere above them. Zack pointed at it, asking, "Is that like Jupiter's Great Red Spot?" "Similar, but not quite the same," Stormy explained, its body mimicking the shape of the dark spot. "These are Neptune's famous dark spots. They're huge storms that can last for years, but unlike Jupiter's spot, they come and go." Zack watched in awe as the dark spot swirled above them. "It's like a giant hurricane." "That's right." Stormy nodded enthusiastically. "And speaking of hurricanes, are you ready for your Neptune challenge?" Zack straightened up, his face set with determination. "You bet I am. What do I have to do?" Stormy's eyes twinkled mischievously. "Your challenge is to surf the fastest winds in the solar system. You'll need to use your space helmet to ride Neptune's extreme winds and navigate through a wind tunnel I've prepared. Think you're up for it?" "Surf the winds." Zack's voice was a mix of excitement and nervousness. "I've never done anything like that before, but I'm ready to try." "That's the spirit," Stormy cheered. "Now let me show you how to control your movements in the wind." Stormy demonstrated how to position the body and use subtle movements to steer in the powerful gusts. Zack listened intently, practicing the motions on solid ground. "All right, Zack," Stormy said finally. "It's time. Are you ready?" Zack took a deep breath and nodded. "I'm ready." With a whoosh, Stormy created a funnel of wind that lifted Zack off his feet. The young explorer yelped in surprise, then laughed as he found himself floating in the air. "Remember what I taught you?" Stormy called out. "Use your body to steer." Zack focused, adjusting his position as he'd been shown. To his amazement, he began to move through the wind tunnel, weaving between obstacles Stormy had set up. The wind roared in his ears as he picked up speed. Zack's heart raced with exhilaration as he zoomed through the Neptunian sky, the blue planet a blur beneath him. "You're doing it, Zack." Stormy's voice barely reached him over the wind. "You're surfing Neptune's winds." Zack let out a whoop of joy as he completed the course, gently descending back to the ground. His legs felt wobbly as he landed, but his face was split with a huge grin. "That was amazing," he exclaimed, breathless with excitement. Stormy swirled around him, radiating pride. "You did wonderfully, Zack. You've truly mastered Neptune's wild winds. You've more than earned this." With a flourish, Stormy presented Zack with his Neptune badge. It was a deep blue, with swirling patterns that seemed to move like the planet's turbulent atmosphere. As Zack pinned the badge to his suit, joining the others he'd collected, he felt a sense of accomplishment wash over him. He'd surfed the fastest winds in the solar system. "Thank you, Stormy," Zack said sincerely. "I've learned so much about Neptune. I never knew a planet so far from the sun could be so active and exciting." Stormy beamed. "That's the beauty of our solar system, Zack. Every planet has its own wonders to discover. Speaking of which, I believe you have one more stop on your journey." Zack nodded, a mix of excitement and sadness filling him. He was eager to see the last planet, but also sad that his incredible journey was coming to an end. "You're right," he said. "I'm ready for my last adventure." As Zack prepared to activate his helmet for the final jump, he took one last look at Neptune's swirling blue surface. The planet's wild winds had shown him the power and beauty of nature on a cosmic scale. With this new knowledge and experience, he felt ready to face whatever challenges awaited him on the last planet of his journey. With a deep breath, Zack activated his helmet, ready for his final planetary leap. Chapter 9: Pluto and the Cosmic Perspective. With a final whoosh, Zack landed on a frigid, icy plain. The cold nipped at his nose, making him grateful for his space helmet. In the distance, mountains of water ice rose against a star-speckled sky. "Welcome to Pluto, young explorer," a soft voice said. Zack turned to see a small pale figure with large dark eyes that mirrored the vastness of space. "You must be Karen," Zack said, his breath clouding inside his helmet. Karen nodded, a shimmer passing over his icy skin. "Indeed. I'm happy to be your guide on this distant world." "It's freezing," Zack exclaimed, hopping from foot to foot. Karen's eyes twinkled. "At nearly 40 astronomical units from the sun, we don't get much warmth here." "Astronomical units?" Zack asked, puzzled. "One astronomical unit is the distance from Earth to the sun," Karen explained. "It's how we measure big distances in space." "Cool," Zack whispered. Karen led Zack across the icy plain, pointing out features. "See that heart-shaped region? That's Tombor Regio, named after Pluto's discoverer." Zack marveled at the smooth, bright ice plains contrasting with the darker, cratered terrain. "It's beautiful," he said, "but isn't Pluto not a planet anymore?" Karen's form dimmed slightly. "In 2006, Pluto became a dwarf planet, but we're still fascinating and have much to teach." Zack nodded eagerly. "I can see that. What makes Pluto a dwarf planet?" "Pluto orbits the sun and is round like other planets," Karen explained, brightening. "But it hasn't cleared its orbital path of other objects. We're part of the Kuiper Belt, a region of icy bodies beyond Neptune." "Are there other dwarf planets out here?" Zack asked, eyes wide. "Yes," Karen replied. "Eris, Makemake, and Haumea, to name a few, each unique and worth studying." As they walked, Zack noticed something odd. "Karen, why does the sun look like just another star?" Karen chuckled. "Good eye, Zack. From this distance, the sun appears much smaller and dimmer. One Plutonian year, our orbit around the sun, is about 248 Earth years." "Wow," Zack exclaimed. "That's older than my great-great-grandparents." Karen nodded, eyes twinkling. "Ready for your final challenge?" Zack stood tall. "You bet." "Excellent," Karen said. "Arrange all the planets in order from the sun, including Pluto as a dwarf planet." Zack took a deep breath, concentrating. "Okay, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars." He paused, recalling his journey through the gas giants. "Then Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune." Karen nodded encouragingly. "And finally," Zack concluded with a grin, "Pluto, the dwarf planet." "Excellent work, Zack," Karen exclaimed, shimmering with delight. "You've shown a true understanding of our solar system's structure." Zack beamed as Karen gave him his final badge, a small heart-shaped emblem representing Pluto. Admiring his complete collection of planetary badges, Zack felt a deep sense of accomplishment. He had traveled from Mercury's heat to Pluto's icy depths, learning about each unique world. "Karen," Zack said, gazing at the star-filled sky, "this trip has been incredible. I never knew how big and diverse our solar system is." Karen nodded wisely. "That's the beauty of exploration, Zack. It broadens our horizons and helps us appreciate our place in the cosmos." Zack smiled, feeling newly connected to the vast universe. As he prepared to return to Earth, he knew he'd never see the night sky the same way again. "Thank you, Karen," Zack said warmly. "I'll always remember this." With a final wave to his Plutonian guide, Zack felt the familiar swirl of lights around him. His mind buzzed with new knowledge as he began his journey home, eager to share his cosmic adventure. Chapter 10. The Return to Earth. In a flash of swirling cosmic light, Zack found himself back in his bedroom. His heart raced, still thrilled from windsurfing on Neptune. He blinked, taking in his space-themed room. The once distant planets on his posters now felt like old friends. Zack's hands trembled as he removed the space helmet. He half expected to feel Pluto's chill or Mercury's heat. Instead, he felt the cozy warmth of home. The helmet glowed softly before fading to a normal metallic sheen. "Wow," Zack whispered. He closed his eyes and images flashed through his mind. Mercury's craters, Venus's swirling clouds, Mars's red dunes. He could almost feel Jupiter's storms and hear Saturn's rings. He discovered a small pouch on his chest. Inside, he found shimmering badges, one for each planet he'd visited. Each badge captured the essence of its planet: Mercury's heat, Venus's mist, Mars's rusty red surface. Jupiter's badge was huge and stormy, Saturn's ringed with ice. Uranus kept tipping sideways, Neptune's whooshed with wind, and Pluto's shone with a cold, distant light. Arranging the badges, Zack realized how much he'd learned. Earth was just one small part of an incredible system. He thought about each planet's challenges, his alien teachers, and the wonders he'd seen. "I can't wait to tell everyone," Zack exclaimed, then paused. Would anyone believe him? How could he explain surfing Neptune's winds or discovering Mars's ancient waterways? An idea struck him. He didn't need to convince anyone he'd actually traveled. What mattered were the cool facts he'd learned, how each planet was unique yet connected. Zack grabbed paper and colored pencils, sketching plans for a solar system model with fun facts about each planet. He'd bring it to school for show and tell, sharing his cosmic classroom experience in a way everyone could enjoy. As evening fell, Zack's mum called him for dinner. He tucked the helmet and badges into his closet, a secret treasure trove of cosmic memories. At his window, he paused to look at the darkening sky. The first stars twinkled, each one promising undiscovered worlds and adventures. The vast expanse now felt alive with possibilities. Zack smiled, feeling newly connected to the cosmos. His journey had ended, but this was just the beginning. He was ready to inspire others with the wonders of space. "Happy birthday to me," Zack whispered to the stars, "and thanks for the best adventure ever." With a final glance at the night sky, Zack turned away, eager to share his space enthusiasm with his family. He knew he'd never see the sky the same way again. The universe had become his classroom, and the lesson had only just begun.